Today's video is going to discuss the latest announcement from Wizards of the Coast, Foundations. If you're one of those players who thinks that this announcement is a little bit suspect, you're not the only one. And this video will go on to discuss some of the probable reasons why Wizards of the Coast is reintroducing a core-like product for Magic players. With an announcement like this, before you go ahead and cheer and say that I'm excited, ask yourself why they're doing it in the first place. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thank you again for hanging out with me on my channel today. A reminder, if you enjoyed today's content, if you liked hanging out with the Moxman, don't forget, like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notification bell. I have new content every single day. So let's get on to our discussion about Foundations, the latest announcement from Wizards of the Coast and what it means. Because a release like this doesn't just happen. It was on the docket to be released. Just like Jumpstart 2025, it now looks like the end of the year for Magic the Gathering is becoming quite crowded. And how do you alleviate any player anger or resentment? Bringing in a core set, explaining we have new players coming into the game that need an avenue, need a pathway to lead to the more complex game that Magic the Gathering becomes the higher levels you get. And that's not wrong. A lot of players came in with the introduction of Universes Beyond. So I'm going to give it to them. Yes, that definitely is one of the reasons that they would introduce a core set. Because having players join at Lord of the Rings and deciding they want to stay on with the game, or Fallout and deciding they want to explore more of Magic the Gathering, introducing a core set makes perfect sense. But that's just on the surface. That's just skimming the top of the pond to make sure everyone understands why you want them to believe that you have done what you have done. To make them seem like we're being the good guys here. We are introducing products that we've had in the past, and they're not wrong. Alpha, Beta, Unlimited. We had all kinds of intro starter decks back in the day that were the beginning of a player learning to play, and you would expand out with booster packs to add to your collection, to build out your deck compositions, to make your decks more enjoyable, more exciting, and more complex. So all of that on the surface looks really good, but there's a lot more to it than that. Allow me to explain. Wizards of the Coast is a company. They need to make money. How can you make money with as little R&D as you can? With as little artwork as you can? With as little packaging as you can? You use what you already own. Toy manufacturers like Hasbro for years have reskinned and retooled existing toys. Like G.I. Joe back in the 80s, they had G.I. Joe, then at the end of their lifespan, they used things like Tiger Force where they just put a different color print on top. And bringing back a core set using good cards that players want, especially spicing up one or two high-hitting cards that may get some older players into the game, means you didn't have to do much. The cards are already written. A lot of the artwork or slush artwork already exists. And we already know it costs pennies to package these things. It's going to be cheap for them to produce. They're going to make revenue from it. They're not going to tick off a lot of players. And they are going to get some new players in the game who need products like this. So as a whole, it's a win-win for the company. It's a way that they can gain and also make money for the company. And by gain, I mean market share. There are lots of other TCGs out there, and for all we know, Wizards of the Coast might be feeling just a little bit of pressure. And they've decided they've got to explore expanding their player base. We have known this for years, that the company has had issues with players leaving the game because it's too expensive. Well, a product like this may draw some new players in on the lower end. Not the high-end stuff, like the collector boosters they're announcing. Those will still be for the whales and the high-end players. But some of these other products they announced, like, allow me to share this with you. Take a look at this. Now, when we're looking at the Play Booster box, the collector box, bundle packs, put those aside for a minute and think of a new Magic player, because right here it says Magic the Gathering Foundations Beginner Box. Retails for $29.95. The larger starter collection box will be $59.99. These are US prices, by the way. Expect more information from Wizards of the Coast in the lead up to the release in fall, which is in November. Foundations Beginner Box is 200 cards, and the Starter Collection is 350 cards. This builds on what they've already discovered. This makes perfect sense to me. It means players can go after the really high-end collector boxes and play booster boxes and still get the core set experience for experienced Magic players, but these beginner sets actually do make sense to me. Again, I want you guys to consider this though. By expanding their player base, they are expanding their customer base, which brings in more revenue for the company. When they reintroduced the starter sets, like Lord of the Rings had the 2-player starter kit, something we've seen for years but haven't seen for well over 5 years, when this came back as a product lineup, players really hopped on board and it was very successful. Bloomburrow also has the same thing, the 2-player standalone deck, which allows new players to enter the game. Players who may not be die-hard fans of Magic the Gathering, but may be coaxed into being a player by buying these $19.99 starter kits. Then if they want to expand, they now have foundations to base their initial sales on as they start to grow into the world of Magic the Gathering. This benefits the company. It increases their market share over other TCGs because they control how much they want to put out. They also control the price range of these products. They also may have noticed that they have a shrinking customer base. It is no surprise to players who now understand that they're in their 30s. They've been playing for 10, 15 years. Some of us in our 50s who have been playing since the game's inception. You do not want your product lineup to age out. You want to introduce it to the next generation. And that next generation come from a whole group of players who've been really big into board games that we've seen in the last 5, 6 years since COVID. Those board game players did buy Hasbro products, and turning this game, Magic the Gathering, into more of a board game style product where you can just buy these small products, play them and enjoy them. This can lead to a whole new subset of players who may not be the die-hard fans of Magic who go to the tournaments and go to pre-releases every weekend, but they may be those players who buy these decks and play on weekends. And when a new set comes along, they expand their collection, buy another kit. They're less expensive, more readily digestible as a Magic product, and again, it helps out the company on their bottom line because for the most part, the IP products we're talking about, they've been reprinted dozens of times. There'll be a lot of common cards here that do not need new artwork or new introductions. This is a fabulous way for Wizards of the Coast to generate more revenue and hopefully keep their prices in check and not have to do massive product lineups that cost more and more money that just drives players away from the game. But to think they're doing it for everyone's benefit is, of course, it's a fallacy. They need money. They need money to keep the company going, to keep the revenue and the shareholders happy. You got to keep it growing. And when we thought they were actually easing up, they weren't. They were just hiding it from us so they could lay it on at the end of the year in the guise of something this product's really not. It is for new players, but at the same time, they aren't just doing the starter kit. They're not just doing the collection kit. They're still giving you the full core set experience with a whole bunch of cards. Now, they've also announced that they're allowing this to go to like 2029, which is interesting. Having the really long life of products like this on the surface looks like it's an amazing thing. And again, many of these cards will be played for decades to come because those players may just keep them as a standalone product. But at the same time, it tells the players who are the experienced Magic players, this is okay to buy. We're going to keep this in the rotation for a very long time. You're okay to buy it. That's kind of good to hear. It's good for players to hear that the products we buy aren't going to be rotated out and be unusable in the future. I like it. Now, I got to see the pricing for all these products. I know they're doing play booster boxes, but let's face it, it should be a slightly cheaper product to get players involved, to make us want to play the game. And it's nothing we haven't seen before. We've seen core sets before. We've seen introductory sets. The way they're putting this product together is almost like a jumpstart thing where you put the two decks kind of together. I see how they're doing it. They're taking elements of products that players liked. They're taking things they have on hand, which is the IP they already own for all these cards, and they're just remixing it together. They're just repackaging things we've already seen. Nothing new. Okay? Yes, there may be some new cards in the set, like that new cat, the 9 Lives cat. I love that card. Whoever's watching this video this late in the game, I love that card. It does interest me. It just reminds me of like horror movie stuff from the 80s. I love it, okay? But to myself, I look at this product and say, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is what the company should be doing right now. They don't care what I think, but in my head, I think they should have eased up on the product lineup instead of just shuffleboarding in late to the game products to see how players will react. The Duskmorn price increase is one thing, just a few bucks, just going to irk a few people. But Foundations, depending on the price, depending on the cards inside, how many new cards versus how many reprints, this is a big thing. It could go really well initially, but Wizards they have a history of messing this stuff up. And I always thought there should never be an end to core sets, because it does introduce a certain amount to standard rotation play. So we'll see how it goes. I can't wait to see your comments in the end. Guys, slam some stuff down. Let me know what you're thinking and what price you think this will be at. I'm interested, okay? Thanks again for hanging out. Thanks for being here with the Moxman. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video. Have an awesome day, everyone. Hey guys, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons of the channel. Because of those patrons, daily uploaded content is made possible for YouTube. So thanks again to all my supporters out there. I love doing these videos, and that kind of support helps make it happen. So thanks again to my patrons, my YouTube membership members, and of course the regular viewers of the channel who give the videos thumbs up every single day. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video. Have a great one. Guys, welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You're here at the end. Now, I want you guys to understand, I'm not against products like this. I actually like them. As much as the video may come across one way or the other to some people, if you made it this far, you understand, I love products like this. There's lots of great cards at an affordable price. What bothers me is, because they own the cards already, and these are usually multiple reprint cards that have been around a long time, one or two spicy cards added in, and a few new cards to attract players to buying them who are established players. These kinds of things, I think, should be at a cheaper price. The new cards should be really hard to get inside the boxes to encourage people to open new boxes. But the core set boxes should be a little bit cheaper because the cards already exist. And most of the artwork will be stuff that we've rehashed a dozen years, 20, 30 years ago. It just keeps coming back around because they own that art by that point. Guys, that's my issue. It's always about the price, not the product. If the price is right, we're going to buy it. If the price is too high, we're going to complain. That's the nature of things like this. When you are trying to grow a customer base and they're utilizing the least work that they can do to build that customer base, like this doesn't cost them a lot. This isn't a lot of effort for them to do. Well, if that's the case, then the price should be less and it should be cheaper because it didn't take them as much time. It didn't take them as much effort. And I know it's not going to, and that's what bothers me. Anyway, I'm glad you guys hung out. I'm glad you guys made it to the end. And if you stick around past this, you might be surprised. Yeah, that's right. Ramble. Jamble.